City of Stevens Point Board of Public Works meeting, recorded September 9, 2024.
Call the Board of Public Works meeting to order. Trish, can we get a roll call, please?
Sure, Mayor Wiesa.
Here.
Alder Keemer.
Here.
Chris Tiffany.
Here.
Alder Nebo.
Here.
Alder Morrow.
Here.
Alder Shuda.
Here.
And Alder Boozy.
Here.
And everyone is present, so we'll move on. Item number 1 is the Director's Report. Director?
Just a couple things. Last month I gave an update on the 24 street improvement project on the north side, and the very next day everything kind of went sideways. So I just wanted to update you on that. What had otherwise happened there that Tuesday after the last meeting was during the installation of the storm sewer in the intersection of 2nd and Maria, we encountered an AT&T vault that created a conflict with the installation of that, so that's why work is halted. There, AT&T is wrapping up they're actually putting in a new vault in place. It's supposed to finish up this week, and our contractor should resume then next week on that phase of work, which will of course push that phase back, which originally looking at the end of this month or the next month, probably push it back a month after that. So other than that, the initial phase through Union Street, as hopefully everyone had a chance maybe to get to if you got to Panacea at the Pacelli High School this weekend, you saw mostly wrapped up, just a little bit of asphalt to do there. And the contractor is working on phase 3 of that project, Walker Street, and will continue to do so until the end of the season. The other thing I wanted to touch base on is West River Drive. The slag seal is completed out there, which is the first phase as far as the restriping there. Restriping should occur next week. Thereafter, we'll start gathering additional data for AECom to utilize towards their study and evaluation as far as additional improvements and such. I would anticipate probably in November sometime we'll have a PIM to kind of really kick that off once we have some additional data, and then AECom will be released to kind of go through their process, wrapping up sometime over the winter.
Okay. Any questions for the Director on either of those two items? I know there have been some questions about what was happening with West River Drive, so we want to make sure we got that update as well. All right, then we'll move on to item number 2, which is to approve the ordinance creation in Chapter 9.05 as it relates to parking at Saramer Park. Director?
Nothing else to add, just with the new accessible parking that was added there, just needed an ordinance to support it.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or a motion?
I will move approval.
Thank you. Did I hear something over here?
I had a question. Just
Absolutely, go ahead.
Regarding the map, like I see where it's pointing. Are we talking about one space or multiple spaces on there?
I thought there were multiple spaces. Todd, do you recall?
I believe there's, yeah, I believe there's more than one space.
More than, okay. Thank you.
Be looking for a second.
Second.
That was Morrow. All right, discussion there. It's my understanding, Alder Keemer, since you're part of the Friends group there, there's a grand opening or something coming up. When is that?
Yes, on Saturday, September 21st, 10 a.m.
September 21st, 10 a.m. You get to see all the new cool things at Saramer Park, and you'll have some new parking rules. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that's approved. Item number 3 is to approve an ordinance creation in Chapter 16, Section 16.14, as it relates to the maintenance and restoration of swales. Director.
Over the last few years, we've had a number of projects where we've otherwise reconstructed or installed swales, and since then we've had, of course, as one can expect, a number of instances related to those swales and the residents there, and we realize we really don't have any ordinance language or anything that kind of helps direct that they can otherwise we can refer to when dealing with them as far as the maintenance of them. Of course, the most common thing is people like to fill them in. And or do other plantings or other improvements within there that basically nullifies the whole purpose for the swale, which is a stormwater management feature. So Director Lemke had come up with this. He drafted something out here, which is what you see for us. Unfortunately, Director Lemke cannot be here tonight. I can try to answer any questions anyone would have, but that is the basics and background of why it's being presented.
Okay. Comments, questions, or a motion?
In my dealing, my area is heavily swaled. And I know we mostly contract that out, do we not, to get it
the work?
back to the way, I mean, the final process at least with the new grass or whatever we do plant?
Correct. There are two ways that swales. One is as part of a larger project, in which case, yes, the contractor, as far as doing that road work, is doing that. The utility also does some of their own swaling with their own staff.
And when it's finally done and finished, is there any final approval from our staff that, yes, they did the appropriate job? Because there are some differences if you go from swale to swale.
Yes, we do. The project are usually walked through. We try to evaluate those. There are definitely going to be differences. Part of it is just the constraints within there, different right-of-way widths, road widths. There might be some existing trees that we're working around or other features that might otherwise be there, be it manholes, water services, just working within driveways or, mailboxes. So it's very difficult to get a truly uniform swale throughout, say, the city. We do try our best to get them as close as possible. In addition to just even the elevation, what we don't want to do is create an ultra-deep swale when someone, the grade of their property rises above the road already, making it very difficult for them to maintain it. So all that's kind of put in together. We're usually trying to identify about 8 inches below the edge of pavement, trying to be within at least a couple inches of that, and that's really what we're trying to do with slopes no steeper than 4 to 1, either fore or aft to that. if that makes
I
sense.
appreciate the full explanation and so forth, because it's difficult when you're doing that to somebody's lawn. You're dealing with people that aren't happy to begin with, and then to try to finalize a project, when you're dealing with every household down the street, it's very difficult. So I appreciate you explaining that.
Welcome.
Yes.
Quick question. Director, you're familiar with the drainage channel between the Holiday Inn and Sandpiper? Is that covered under something as well? Because there's someone who lives along that likes to plant stuff in there, which creates a hazard. Is there a separate ordinance, or is that's not a swale, is it? Or
It's not a swale, no, but it does otherwise identify in the other materials not allowed in areas intended to have swales or other water treatment or conveyance purposes, and that
okay,
is for
so
conveyance purposes.
that would be.
So it would be covered under this, yes.
Want to make sure there's not a lot
Yes.
of pushback when you guys have to go in and clean that one out. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion?
Motion for approval.
I will second.
Okay, motion by Tiffany, seconded by Keemer. Discussion? Comments from the audience?
Just curious about how this, I get the intention. We have these rain garden things that we do around here too, the catchments and all that kind of stuff that people have been encouraged to put in and that kind of thing. How does this affect that sort of intention of the city's larger plan to all right, we're gonna plant some things in those sort
Sure.
of things, or encourage people to plant some things into that?
This specifically does not address that.
Okay.
So that's something, but I am actually working on some other language as far as terrace gardens that
Okay.
hopefully be more encompassing, and we'll probably be working on that for a little while, that I will be bringing forward here, because the intention here is really vegetated, and if it is planted in something, rain gardens, picking the proper species of plants instead are actually advantageous. So turf actually works very well. The roots within those areas are one of the things that make them work. It's the lack thereof and putting in mulch and stone and things like that. People think even stone drains. It does, but when you don't have those roots underneath that, stone's actually what happens is it usually fills with sand and starts to blind itself off. If you ever looked at a just freshly furrowed field, it's usually full of water, and the reason is that because all that fine material basically cuts it off and the water can't penetrate near that, versus a planted field, which is then usually the water drains, and it all has to do with the root development. So that's really what this is otherwise addressing, is really no other foreign materials or alterations to that. Plantings will be coming later.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is if the neighborhood was to kind of work with the city on these rain gardens, we could probably do some planning, as
There are some things in the zoning outside of my realm related to community development, related to some native plantings and whatnot. So we're trying to tie that all together. But within those limits, which I'm not completely familiar with, couldn't chapter verse them back to you.
Sure.
But yes, we could work with them on some rain garden plantings.
All right, thank you.
And just to get the distinction here, Alderperson, the swales are separate from the rain gardens in this particular ordinance. Okay. Any other comments?
I moved to approve the.
No, we already got it.
Okay, thanks.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Put Alder Morrow as the third. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? And that's approved. Item number 4 is to accept the ordinance amendments in Chapter 9, Section 9.05, as it relates to parking kiosks. As you know, we removed the parking kiosk. We're putting up signs. Everything's going to be either online, through the app, or there's a number you can call. Director, anything to add there?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory why we're doing this one.
Actually saving money by doing this. Thoughts, comments, motion?
I will move approval of the ordinance amendment.
Thank you, Alderperson Kneebone. Second by Shuda. Discussion.
Never thought I'd say this, but I'm sad to getting rid of a parking kiosk because it's.
You want one? I
It
can
was
have one
nice.
delivered to your
It was
house.
nice. It was nice to use to park and get rid of some spare change.
Thanks. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is approved. Item number 5 is to award the 2024 Fall Paving Project 24.03 to American Asphalt of Wisconsin for an amount not to exceed $572,566.51. Director, anything to add there?
Really nothing to add. If you were interested in what this all came together kind of last minute, as usually does, related to funding availability to accomplish fall paving. Came together relatively quick, but the list is otherwise in the director's report if you're interested in what we're planning to get done.
Since I called this morning on it, I so move.
Thank you. Have a second? Second by Morrow. Discussion there. Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved, and we're adjourned at 7:02.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.